Hey everybody, I'm Haley Gray, and I'm the founder of the Women's Entrepreneur Network. And tonight I've got Victoria Bentley here tonight.
Hi.
And I think that this is a really good topic for business owners and anybody even who's not a business owner, because we're going to be talking about being intentional and being clear and getting your communication across and, learning to listen as somebody who is an adult, a responsible member, and especially as a business owner or somebody providing a service. I think it's really, really important to listen carefully to what people are saying, and maybe even sometimes reading between the lines and understanding what it is that somebody means when they say something. I went and I got my hair done yesterday. I hadn't had it done in a while. And yes, my hair does not look particularly done at the moment. That's a whole other conversation. But I told the person who was washing my hair and the hairstylist I'd just gotten stitches out of my face and that I'm still swollen. I'm still sore. Y'all can see I've got bruising still. And my scalp is still really sore. And hey there. And, it's one of those things where, it is challenging because I'm like, okay, guys, I'm sore. I'm super sensitive and things kind of hurt. And, I had somebody washing my hair and they kind of sort of did it. But then the hairdresser who I've gone to for a really long time, I guess was like not in her zone of genius yesterday because she was combing my bangs down over my face and had a relatively sharp comb and was scraping my face with the comb. And this was after I had said, hey, y'all, watch out. My face is sore. Not trying to be a party pooper. I actually really needed somebody to really carefully wash my hair because I had all kinds of like sticky stuff in my hair still from all the tape and everything I've had on my face. It was one of those experiences. And, and I sit here and I mean, to Vicky's point, I'm thinking about, gosh, when have I like not done a good job of listening and, paying attention to what somebody is actually saying. And hey, Velma, glad to see you.
Glad to see you.
I'm glad you didn't miss it.
You made it just in the nick of time. So, really thinking about, listening to people when they say something, whether it's a client or a customer or a partner or a friend, what are they trying to tell me when they tell me something? And granted, right now I'm a little bit extra sensitive, literally.
But you said so.
I did say so, and I did warn them. Yeah. And I actually, like I said, I have bruising still going on my face. I came home yesterday and I took ibuprofen and that didn't do anything. So I ended up having to take the heavy duty painkillers that just knocked me flat on my butt last night. I slept really good though.
I have an interesting thought with what we're talking about. And today I needed to call and make an appointment for my hair to be done. And the gentleman who does my hair alternates between two locations and I never know which one. So I have both numbers. I called the first number. Hi, this is Victoria Bentley. I'm calling for Mr. Billy Bob. I need to get my hair done. Long pause. What'd you say your name was again? Said my name. This is Victoria Bentley, and I'm calling to make an appointment to get my hair done with Billy Bob. Oh. Well, he's not here today. Okay, but I even if he were, I would expect he's doing someone's hair. You're the receptionist. I'm calling to make an appointment with. So anyway, she ended up saying he's at the East store. And I said, what is the number, please? Oh, I'll transfer you. Transferred me. And the person on the phone in the other location, hi, my name is Victoria Bentley, and I'm calling to make an appointment with Billy Bob to get my hair done. Oh, I'm so glad you called. Now let me write this down, Victoria Bentley. And what is your cell phone number? When would you like to come in? And what are you having done? And I thought, well, gee, that's like, yeah, like Velma's doing. It was night and day. This is somebody who, I mean, she doesn't own this place, but she's working there and she is
Right.
top of her game. She
Mhm.
remembered my name. And even if she hadn't remembered her name or hadn't heard it
Mhm.
clearly, it's like, I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of your name. Would you mind repeating it? I mean, that's simple enough, right? So, and I
Right.
realized how much better we feel when we're listened to. We feel kind of insignificant, or I don't know, we feel marginalized when we're not heard. And even in the
Yeah.
simple things like customer service. And I think, what a difference. I've said this before. Do you know who's on the board of your bank? Heck no. But you know who the teller is. And if she's miserable, you're going to another bank. And you don't care what the policies are, and you don't care
Mhm.
who you know what I'm saying. And I
Yeah.
thought about this today, and expectations are part of this. But I expect that if you're out in public and you're greeting the public, or you're talking to the public, or you're answering the phone, or you're you know a face of a business, that you would have a modicum of skills on how to talk to people. Or as you were saying, when you went to get your hair done, you and I had a private conversation about this right off the bat. I have had surgery. My face is still very sore. I have swelling. I have bruising. Be careful. And nobody listened. They combed. They caused you pain. They worked on your head instead of, gee, Haley, is this okay? May I do this? Or would you rather me not? Whatever it was.
Mhm.
You didn't get any of that
Mm-mm.
because somebody didn't value what you had to say.
No.
Now, whether they're aware of it or not, that's the truth. They didn't value
Mhm.
where you were at the time. And
Right.
you've been a customer of this woman, as you said, for quite some time.
Mhm.
And to me, sorry, I'm not available for that. And I don't expect you to memorize all kinds of details. But for me, I can't tell you how many times I have brought in photographs, I have brought in color, I have done it's like this one, but not this one because, and not this one because, and they go and do what they want to do anyway.
Mhm.
Well, I thought you'd like it better. It's like, gee, I thought I was
That's not
real.
what I asked for, right?
I thought I was real cool. And I've realized after all these years, I am very clear. If I'm showing you a photograph, if you can't do the photograph, say, gee, your hair is too thick for this, or your face is too round for this, or your color is, your natural color underneath won't get you, whatever. But you, hairdresser, need to tell me, customer, why or why not this will work. And if it won't work, what plan B is, or what would you think about this, Vicki? And I don't see people like that anymore. And
Mhm.
we have
Well,
a
and I mean, I run into this with graphic designers on my team too. Like, we do logos and we do branding and we do a lot of things. They're deeply personal, right? So we're trying to understand what it is that you want and approximate that and get to some version of that. And one of the problems that I have, and we have had, is designers who have a huge ego and they want what they want, and the customer's going to take what I'm going to give them.
Mhm, mhm.
No, the customer
Yes.
is not. The customer is going to walk 100% of the time. It is your job to give the customer what they wanted, or something better.
That comes back to listening to understand rather than listening to respond, right? Because, I mean, in each of these cases, nobody's listening to understand. Like, you're giving examples from a business perspective, and had that designer listened to understood, maybe he is that good and he comes up with something that is just brilliant. If he explains it, this is what I heard
Mhm.
you're looking for. This is what I'm understanding you're trying to create. And this is
Right.
how this is how I see that expresses this. So I just want to check in with you. Have I heard you correctly?
Do you think people do this because they don't know how to do what you're asking? I had an experience. Yeah, probably is right. I had an experience.
To some extent, yeah. They're not trained. They're not, or they're just like far out, you know? It's like, I'm just doing this haircut or whatever, because I'm just getting it done and I'm just getting it out of here. And I don't care what the customer really wants.
That's absolutely the wrong career to have if that's your kind of thing.
I'm gonna challenge that, because I can do that. That's part of me.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Sometimes people have stuff going on, right? Like you've been there and you've seen somebody cut you off and you're like mad as hell, but you don't know for sure that they're not racing to the hospital. You don't know for sure that mom has cancer. And so my mind is out here. I'm not here with you, right? I don't think, are there people that do it deliberately? Absolutely. They're very, very self-centered and very self-focused. And especially at this time of year, there's a lot of distracted people. How am I going to pay for my gifts for my kids? And can I even get gifts for my kids? Right? Like there's all kinds of things that can be going on at the same time. Right?
Absolutely. And I think that there's kind of two things, right? I think that they're not quite fully with you, which I have a really funny story about. But I also find that, you know, I have worked with people and there are times where somebody is slapping something together at the last minute because they've waited until the last minute. And it's like, here, I've procrastinated, I've caused a problem, but they're not willing to admit that they've caused a problem. And they're just doing everything last minute and good luck, you know. And we end up in this perpetuating cycle with some of them because, you know, they find that they can multitask or not be focused enough often enough that they get away with it, that they don't lose enough clients. Or, hey, I procrastinate and I create the cycle where, oh, well, I'm doing it at the last minute, but enough of my clients accept the at the last minute. So I don't get penalized badly enough for the doing it at the last minute and not really thinking about it thing. And not having adequate attention to detail. You know, and a lot of times we think we can multitask and we think that we can do two things at once and we think that we can be totally like out there. Okay. Yeah. Vicki and Velma, I see the look on your face. I was sitting there this weekend with my brother and his wife. No joke.
Birthday weekend.
My birthday weekend, my 50th birthday weekend. And so we're sitting by the fire and my brother and I chatting and my husband is there and we're all chatting and my sister-in-law is sitting there and she's got her phone and she's doing this. Like phone up in her face, scrolling. And, you know, I personally got kind of aggravated and I finally more than a little pointedly said, you know, people are really crappy at multitasking. She goes, you know, you're right. You know, your brother insists on focusing on one thing at a time and he will refuse to do anything that's, you know, not one thing at a time, but, you know, women are so much better at multitasking. See, look at me. I can multitask while I'm doing this. And my husband and I go, you know, actually, no, you probably are suffering a 30 to 40% performance hit. You don't even realize it. And she's like, oh, I'm sure I'm fine. And she's got her phone up in her face. I'm like, sure, whatever. I'm never going to convince you, right? So the next morning, Monday morning, we get up and I'm like, okay, David, just to confirm, we're going to get up tomorrow morning and we're going to go to this restaurant for breakfast, you know, for your last breakfast here. And he's like, yep, confirmed. Here's the time. We're getting up and we're leaving and we're doing these things. So I get up, my brother gets up, he comes down, his wife comes down on his shoulder and she doesn't have her shoes on. And she looks at me and goes, so what's for breakfast? And I'm like, you remember that whole conversation about multitasking? Where she didn't see it. Like she never even remembered hearing us say, we're going to this restaurant at this time. And I even did pointedly, okay, just to double check, just to confirm, this time is good with you. Tomorrow morning, we're going here and going here. And my brother's like, yep, got it. And she's like, yep, got it. The whole time she's there. So to your point, Velma, I think that you're right. I think a lot of times we are trying to communicate with one another. So just to be clear,
it's interesting because I've been, I've shared that I was in admin for like 30 plus years. And on every single one of those job profiles that I had looked at, they're like good at multitasking. And I actually did not put that on my resume. I put good at switch tasking. Mm-hmm. Because that's really what it is switching from task to task. And the reality is even that is difficult because there is always a recalibration period.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
I've never heard that term. That's very good, but it's not effective. It's
there's a period
you're hanging up one phone and picking up another. Now, who am I talking to and what are we talking about? And let me look at the file. And no, it's not.
It's not effective. And you lose time every time you hang up the phone, pick up the next and go, now, who was I talking to and where's that file, right?
Yeah. And did I write notes and will I remember? Because I'm trying to do too many things at once. When we were talking about intentions, Velma, my point of reference was I was the new lawyer in a firm and a client came and wanted to incorporate a new business. And he had very specific ideas on what he wanted to do. And the lawyer said, no, that's a bad idea. What you want to do is you need to have a Delaware corporation and whatever it was. And so when the client left, I said, okay, I heard you say that ABC was a bad idea and that he really should have this corp. And I said, why did you make those choices? And it was so that I could learn. And he said, oh, because I don't know how to do what he's asking. And I just thought, whoa, this wasn't about the client. This wasn't about listening. This wasn't about anybody else's best interest but his own. He didn't want the partners to see that he didn't know how to do something. And I think it's perfectly legitimate not to know how to do something. That's why I was sitting in so that I could learn something. You go figure it out. You open the law book, you look at somebody, you follow the steps, whatever. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do.
Go find a precedent.
Right. And it's interesting because the client really needed what he was asking for. And the tax hit that he took for doing it the way this lawyer did it was probably significant. And he, I don't know if he ever figured it out, but I think people are often all about themselves and, they want to do what they want to do. And a
lot of times we're doing what we know how to do, but not necessarily what's right for the customer. And we know we know sometimes that there is like a level that you can't see. I will tell you, I'm an MBA. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. There are things in accounting I don't know anything about. I know that you can file in Delaware or Nevada and that there are certain tax benefits, but there's also, you have to have a registered agent in the state, and there's certain limitations to it. And there's a lot of tax rules around it. And some states get real nasty if you're primarily located in their state versus another state. And there's a lot of tricky stuff. And so you have to know your thing. And I will say, you need to talk to a CPA or an attorney who's experienced in this aspect of law specifically, and this aspect of tax law specifically, because a lot of times people have no clue.
Right.
And you can even be talking to an attorney who has no experience in that, and they're going to give you bad advice because they're not even going to admit that they don't have that experience.
Well, and don't we remember Clint Eastwood looking into the 357 Magnum when he said, a man's got to know his limitations. Mm. And how often, because he was holding the gun, he could say that. But how often do we not know our limitations and we go blazing forward and not paying attention and not listening and not being on our game instead of saying, whoa, let's slow down. And when you're in that mode, you can't hear what anybody's saying to you. You're not available to hear. You're so busy saying, "How am I doing? How am I doing?" Or "I don't know what I'm doing." Whatever. And I think that
Yeah.
the listening is
Well, in
the first to go.
stopping, in being willing to stop and say, hey, I may not know the exact answer to this. Let me do a little bit of research. Let me look it up. Let me ask somebody. Let me consult a colleague. I mean, I see it a lot, very often in the tech world, where somebody is like, oh, I can just hire a developer to do that because it sounds like it should be something easy, or, oh, we can easily custom code that. And I'll tell you, as a software engineer with 25 years of experience, that is really frequently not the case. Some of the things that sound the simplest are absolutely the most complex bears on the face of this earth. And, you know, understanding what the limitations are of like your technical knowledge and understanding where the edges are is super important. But yet, you know, so often I see people in India and the Philippines, or even here in the US, who are like, oh, that's super easy. And then,
they muck it up.
Well, and we used to joke about it, like when I was in corporate, because I worked at a couple of pretty large corporations. I worked at IBM and I worked at EMC and whatnot. You know, we used to joke that, you know, we'd have these salespeople that would go out and they would sell features that sounded great to the client, and then commit to us, to the development team, delivering them when it wasn't even necessarily on the roadmap, because it sounded like it should be something that was included as a feature. And my husband's and my term for that is they got the client pregnant. That is the term that we use in the tech world. They got the client pregnant, you know, with these promises of these features, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And they didn't go back and ask the tech team and say, hey, can we actually do this? And can we actually do this sometime this side of the, you know, third millennium?
That always reminds me, that meme that's out there. It's one of those little tiny reel videos of this black dog that's being talked to, that the neighbor's dog is pregnant and he's got this look on his face, right? But that, it's true.
That's how we felt as developers sometimes, right? And that's one of the things that, you know, in my business, I'm particularly leery about, you know, promising people things, you know, about performance, or about, you know, yeah, we can definitely do that, without going off and researching it sometimes, because I don't know. I have to go look and see what the limitations of this particular implementation are, this piece of tech I'm using.
That's where it's so important, though, to be very discerning about who it is that you choose to work with. I mean, Victoria, you were sharing that story about that lawyer. And I just went back and I looked at your Y operating system, and I know exactly why you would have been the right person for that client. And that comes out as because your what is trust. And I would lay you dollars to dimes that fellow's Y operating system did not include trust.
That's a very interesting, you know, it's so funny that you're saying that, because in the subject of trust, and considering I was a family law lawyer after that, he was having an affair with one of the women in the office. So trust was not big on his,
integrity was not real high on his list of features.
Yeah, and she ended up leaving him for another woman. So, oh boy, did he have trust issues after
burn
that.
here. Yeah.
Woo. Yeah. Like, ooh. Now there is, you know, like, what do you do with that? You know,
that's a story. So you're,
you know, you can say she left me for Brad Pitt, but she left me for Angelina Jolie. Wasn't even in the equation. You know, it was.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's kind
of
talk
about burn, right? But you know, I think it's important to be, you know, both intentional and clear in your communications with clients. Say, yes, we can definitely do that without getting the client pregnant, you know, or doing something like that. And y'all chuckle every time you hear that. So I'll have to work that into things regularly now. But also
consults with people.
Right. That's why I do a consult with people, is to know, can we actually help you, or can we not help you? You know, are you better off doing this for yourself?
I told you that in initial interviews I would have with people, again, it was family law. I would do the, red, yellow, and green light. People would say, well, I would ask them what their intentions were for the case. What do you want to get out of this? Well, I want to get divorced. No kidding. Well, I want my kids 100% of the time. I want him to never see them. His girlfriend cannot see them until they graduate from college, that kind of stuff. And I would assign things: red light, yellow light, green light. The yellow light was the maybe, the green light, yeah, no problem. But the red light, no, that's not happening.
That's not how the law works.
That's not how the law works. But also, if he wants to take them to Disney, other than he has a cocaine problem where he's shooting up heroin, I think it's a really good idea for him to take them on vacation. Yeah, but I won't be there and they won't be fed properly, or some kind of nonsense, which was code for I don't want his girlfriend around, or I want to control what kind of fun he has, and I don't want my kids to like him better than me, or whatever it is. And all of that was about being clear, and not just me being clear, but me getting to know how your intentions were and what I was going to. And we go back to the life's too short client. There are some of those people, when you hear stories like that, you think, oh man, if they can turn on their spouse who they loved and took an oath and a vow and a whatever, just think what they could do to their lawyer,
Well, and how fast they're going to turn on their attorney. Yeah.
I'd have a tough time having a like that.
Totally.
It would just feel so icky every time they were in my office. I would feel icky.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
it's a technical term.
It is a technical term. Yeah. And you have to have people that hire you as an expert that aren't going to sit here and tell you how to do every single aspect of your job. I can't tell you how many people, usually white men, sorry to be stereotypical, that are like 55 and older, who tell me exactly how Facebook works and that I should hire somebody in their 20-somethings to help me run Facebook.
Yeah, because somebody at 20-something has been studying it for how long and watched every different change to the algorithm and pays attention to when the algorithm changes, because they've got that kind of wisdom behind them.
Well, and then the other thing is, clearly the fact that I've grown a Facebook group to 76,000 members organically means nothing.
Yeah, and they want 16-year-olds to vote in New York. Are you freaking kidding me?
You were just...
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Oh my God.
6,000 times lucky.
Yeah,
we know.
There are some of these that I'm like,
are we just being grumpy old women?
No. See what?
Are we just being grumpy old women?
I am a grumpy old woman. I admit it. I am a grumpy, bitchy old woman right now. And I have definitely pulled out the bitchy card right now. But, seriously, like getting lectured on, well, you need a 20-something to teach you how to do it. And it's like, okay. And not my client.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that client is not a match. They can go find their 20-something.
Or they can go something else too.
Well, true story. I had somebody who did that. I've had a couple that have. One of them in particular went and hired a 20-something, and because the client was in the financial services industry, y'all may know this, but on social media platforms, including Facebook, there are a lot of restrictions about what you can post, how you can post, and what you can advertise and how you can advertise and the verbiage you can use for advertising. We had spent over a month cleaning up his account and getting off everything that was causing the account to be gray listed.
You mean, I like Trump, I like Elon Musk. Just saying. Boom, you're out of here.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was even like financial stuff that shouldn't have been on there, and rates and terms and conditions and stuff, and some of the things that really are a violation of Facebook's terms and conditions, like not even political, but like financial stuff. And
yeah,
we got it all cleaned up, and we got
cryptocurrency.
well, we got everything flowing. And then he was like, yeah, and let me go. And then he hires a 20-something who we sat there and watched his account just like get like frozen down hard from Facebook
Wonderful.
because of how he was targeting people and advertising and breaking every single rule in the book.
Well, good. Then he's an idiot. And that's what happens if you're an idiot. And then he'll call you up and your price just doubled.
Oh, no, I wouldn't take him back at that point because you can't fix it once they've screwed it up for the second and third and fourth time.
Was the cheater always a cheater?
Always a cheater.
I don't know. I just, as a divorce lawyer, I don't think that's true.
Well, in this case, I would say maybe for 10x, I would take him back, but I seriously doubt he'd be willing to pay.
Life's too short.
Life is much too short for somebody who doesn't have the sense that God gave a gnat. And when we say, hey, this is a problem and this is a violation of, the terms and conditions that you're seeing on Facebook and Google, and I'm not talking political stuff. I'm talking about, the financial stuff, the fair housing laws and all of that. Got to be careful.
But that comes back to you establishing the boundaries of what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept.
And that's being intentional and being clear. And that's where we started.
Absolutely.
And if you abide by those rules,
I feel like I can say anything.
And like, don't lie. I'm a really big believer that the 10 commandments are not there so God can punish you and you're going to. No, I believe that all that stuff is there so that, like, listen, if you start lying, it's going to be really bad. And I don't want bad things to happen to you. I don't want you going down that road. So don't do it because it gets so complicated. And if you're really intentional and really clear, then you don't have any of those complications. Mm-hmm. It's on somebody else.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, December 8th, you and I talked about ABC. Do you remember that? Are those your initials here? Yeah, we talked. You understood that at that time. You have a yep. You got a copy. Here it is. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's part of business, unfortunately, when you're talking about things that are more in depth, and unfortunately you can't get that, on December 8th, we talked about my hair color was going to be this. And I showed you these 3 pictures for inspiration. And you agreed that you were going to do this to my hair. And then I walked out, a shade of purple.
With red hair and shaved on one side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My daughter's done that.
I won't be doing that. Just saying, at my age, it's just not cool. Mm-mm.
Although I have been doing the purple.
Go for it.
For the
purple with gray is pretty.
The right purple is amazing. But, like being intentional and being clear with people and both sides of the equation, whether you're on the sales side or whether you're on the shopper side, I think is so important.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. I mean, to be quite honest, I have that Y operating system in my toolkit, and I use it for me too, because I know what your operating system is, Haley. I know what kind of service I would get from you. There's another person that I've hired as well. I did the same thing with him. I know exactly what his operating system, and trust happens to be his too. Those are things that are important to me. Do they make sense of things? When it comes to me hiring people inside of my business, I'm being very intentional
about
and clear
about what kind of people I want to work with, what kind of experts I want to work with, because I don't want to be the expert in everything. I want to be Captain Kirk, and I want Spock, and I want all those right people in those right seats. And I'm going to be very intentional about that as I build my business.
Absolutely. And with that, I think that wraps us up for tonight.
Another week.
Wow.
Wonderful discussion, ingenious women.
Awesome. Y'all take care. Have an awesome night, and we'll talk soon.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.